Welcome to all of you. I'm glad that you could come and visit with us today. And of course, my phone's going to be ringing just as this happens. There we go. Okay, what we're going to talk about today are reservations, booking your guests for a farm stay. And as I had mentioned in the promo to this, we've done all this work to market people and get them to come to our farm. But if they can't make reservations, then what's the point? And I thought I would use this image here for the first slide because these are some of the kinds of messages that we get on the farm contact forms on our website that go to our farms specifically. I'd like more information about booking. Is your cottage available for rental at any point? What are prices if I want to stay 2 or 3 nights? So I am excited to talk about this today, and we will start right here. Somehow with a little housekeeping. And for those of you who have attended this before, this will be a repeat, but for those of you who are new, Zoom offers you the opportunity to interact with us. And Kate is on chat, so that if you have any questions that are tech questions, I can't hear, I can't see, she will be able to help you with those. If you have questions for me at the end, because I'm the one who's going to be presenting this today, please type those into the Q&A, which you will see if you scroll to the bottom of your page. You will get a pop-up and it will show question and answers. I will answer those at the end. All of your microphones are muted other than me. And there is a short survey at the end of this webinar that I would love for you to fill out. It's only 4 or 5 questions. That is part of the grant feedback that I need, as this webinar series is partially funded by an FMPP grant. We will be posting this webinar on the FarmStay USA website in the Farmer's Guide, hopefully within 24 to 48 hours after the presentation, as long as we have done everything correctly. I am Scottie Jones. I'm the founder and executive director of the U.S. FarmStay Association that I launched in 2010, but I'm also the co-owner of Leaping Lamb Farm and FarmStay in Alsea, Oregon. And we opened the FarmStay in 2006 out of necessity. We needed to diversify our income. And I am intimately experienced with reservations because I started out with just email and a physical calendar for my own farm stay. There weren't a lot of options back in 2006 that were very simple. I have tried a variety of booking systems. I have my favorites. I have lessons learned that I want to convey today, but I'm also going to be using examples from some of our other farm members to demonstrate the variety of ways that our farm stay operators currently do bookings. And we all have our favorites. But the overview for this specific webinar are going to be the steps to consider for reservations. And I'm going to start at the very beginning, which are the contracts that you need to have if you are offering reservations to guests, the licenses you need to have, how you need to consider your pricing, credit card services, calendars, reservation options, and we'll get into that in much more depth, whether it's email and phone, your website, software, or OTA services. And I'm going to tell you right now, OTA stands for Online Travel Agencies. And I will go into that in more detail. But really, reservations are about your comfort level and experience that you wish to provide for your guests and also for yourself. So let's start out first with contracts. You always need to have terms and conditions. If you think of any other booking you've ever done for a car, for a hotel, for an airplane, the information that is in the small print, and yours doesn't need to be small print, is everything from cancellations to refunds, and for what you expect in guest behavior. These are basically rules to live by. I'm going to show you an example on the next slide, but they are rules to live by. Sometimes you need to be creative with those rules if things don't go the way you or your guests expected, but at least you have something in writing. You also need a liability waiver. This is where your guests are going to acknowledge that farms and ranches are dangerous places, and they're going to sign off on that. I have mine online with my reservation form that people sign off on. You can also have this in a paper format. My lawyer would love for me to have my guests sign both. I don't actually do that. But what this is this stands between you and a lawsuit. Not that people won't sue if something goes wrong, but at least that they have signed off somewhere that they have acknowledged that they need to be careful on your farm. The best way to come up with contracts is to look at how others have written them and then tailor them. That is actually what I did with mine. You do want to have a lawyer review whatever you write up because it may not be applicable in your state. Here is a link to an example of mine. And as I said, you can look at other farms and see how they potentially have their terms and conditions set up. And you want to have those on your website so that it's very clear. You also want to have those in your booking area. This is just an example of a few of the policies and a few of the items in my liability waiver. So I talk about dogs, I talk about smoking, and I talk about check-in. But there are many other things that I talk about. I have about 10 items in that policy. And then with this waiver of liability, this is kind of legalese. This is something that my lawyer helped create. But basically, it's a release, waive, discharge, covenant not to sue. You will, if you are in the 25 states that also have a limited liability agritourism law, hopefully have signs up around your farm. In terms of licensing, if you are doing this as a business legally, you do need to have a business license, and that might be something either from your city, your county, your state, just to make sure that you are legal and recognized as a business. If you can see here, the example I gave is actually for FarmStay USA. And so this recognizes us in the corporation division as a business, and it shows where we are located. And it's an annual fee to be licensed. They're usually not that expensive. But you'll also most likely need to be collecting lodging tax, also known as a bed tax. It might be state, it might be county, it might be city, it might be all three. So you need to determine what that percentage is that you need to charge above your lodging fee. You collect this from your guests, and then you are required to submit it to the one agency or multiple agencies, depending. That might be quarterly, it might be monthly. Again, it depends. This is research that you need to do for yourself. You're usually credited a percentage for your time to fill this information out and get the money to your state. And as I said, it might not be all agencies. So for instance, in Oregon, I am in an unincorporated community. And so I collect 1.8% for the state, and that is all. In terms of pricing, this is something else that you need to have set out in your reservation form. I always say simple is best. I started off with a very complicated reservation system, and I have moved to a much more simplified system, which makes it easier for me, and it makes it easier for my guests to understand what do they owe, what's it going to cost them to come. You can look at seasonal, which would be high season, low season, or maybe you're closed. If you look at this example here, this is from Serenity Sheep Farm up in Montana. She offers a shepherd's wagon, and you can see that she's only open from June until the end of September because it snows otherwise. And this is a very simple strategy. She has done it per night, single, double occupancy. What that means is if there's one person or there's two people, it's $99. And often you want to do something like this if you're renting a room, single, double occupancy, because the room costs you $99. And whether it's one or two people doesn't really matter to you. But you could also do per week, per month. I put discounts here because if you're offering accommodations per month, it's probably less than what you would be charging per night. But I also wanted to remind you that you will have guests who will ask for discounts, AAA discounts, military discounts. You want to have thought that through. Not that you have to offer a discount, but don't be surprised if you're asked for them. And if you've pre-thought it, then you aren't going to be stumbling around. Weekday versus weekend. It's funny, I see this more on the East Coast than I see anywhere else. If you offer something different on the weekend or the weekday, great, make those different rates, but I find that much more confusing. Flat fee versus per person. Again, I go back to simple. If you have a cottage and you're renting it to one person or 6 people, do you want to only do it per person, or do you want to have a flat fee that cottage is $250 a night? I started off per person. I have moved to that flat fee because I don't want to miss out on the amount of money that I could make on that if 6 people had booked it. And then there are additional fees. So you want to be very clear with this about the lodging tax. Do you have a cleaning fee? Do you have other kinds of fees? This is an example from my farm specifically, and you will see that I have my 2-bedroom cottage. I do it per night. I do a high season and holidays and a low season. For the farmhouse, I do the same thing, but because the farmhouse is so large, I do 4 people, and then I do additional people, $25 a person. That was because I didn't want to penalize small families that might not be able to stay in our cottage, and we're only going to use up one part of our farmhouse. So you just want to think it through. What would you want? What would you want to pay if you were traveling to your place, and what would it look like? I would also caution about doing things per person under 3 are free. You're just asking your guests to lie to you about how old their children are. So I try to stay away from age in terms of how old children are. So calendars. You probably want to have a calendar. Gosh, I'm sorry. This is the old-fashioned way. We do have some farms that still do handwritten calendars, emails. This is just an example of my calendar because I do online, but I keep a handwritten calendar in the event that my computer isn't going to come up, or I don't want to have to look at it. It's quick glance. It's great. Who, what, when, where. The caveat is you need to keep it up to date. You don't want to just refer to this if you've got an online calendar as well, in case you haven't kept it up to date. But there are online calendars if you decide you don't want to go the route of using a software program. iCalendar is something you want to look for. It's a calendar data exchange, which means that if you are on some of the big travel sites, all of the calendars sync together from platform to platform. So that way you don't have to worry about updating things. If you do use a calendar that doesn't sync, you need to make sure that you remember where you've got yourself advertised and that you keep those calendars up to date. And what I'm showing right down here at the bottom, and I will show this in more detail, this is a reservation software program that I use. And so it shows what an online calendar can look like. So let's start at the beginning. A number of our farmers still use phone and email reservations as their preferred form of reservations. And there are a lot of pros to this. It's very low tech, direct contact with guests before their arrival. It's usually the contact button on your website. There are calendar options available, as I said, online or hard copy. You get a feel for your guests, and you can set those expectations with them in case they are maybe not a good fit or you're not a good fit for them. I would say the cons for this, however, are that you need to be able to return phone calls and emails. I put here within 24 hours. The reality is if you can do it within 4 hours, that is a better solution because you've got people online who are trying to make reservations right now. It requires 100% accuracy to avoid double booking, or in case you take incomplete reservation information, which would be contact information. How do you email them? How do you call them back? in the event you need to get in touch with them before their arrival. That double booking issue is one of the reasons that a lot of us have switched over to online booking with calendars that don't allow for it. You need to keep your calendar up to date manually, since many of them don't sync with the OTAs. And in the end, your bookings won't be maximized because most travelers prefer instant booking, and it's amazing at what time of day, night, and early morning people like to be online making reservations. You can use custom reservation systems on your website. These are usually created from templates or plugins or social media buttons. And I'm showing you an example here of Netherfield Natural Farm. You'll see the first image is their website. And so when I come down on their website and I have clicked on rooms and spaces, you can see that's highlighted, and I get that check-in date, check-out date, check availability. You also see that book now button that they have. Well, once I clicked that, this is one of the images I got. I actually got all of their rooms, but this is all I could put on here. And it's showing what the price is. Then I would click on show rates. And then this would go right through to their own system. This is an app. It's the bookingbutton.com app. You can also find a Book Now button even on Facebook that will link right through to you. And there are no fees to use these apps, so you're not paying a percentage for anything. And this is how you would do it personally if you don't want anything more than an actual booking button. There is reservation software out there though, and there's actually a lot of it. If you look at this link at the bottom, it's called Capterra, and I clicked on that and I was amazed at actually how many reservation software programs there are. I'm only going to talk about a few of them. I'm going to talk about the ones that our farmers use. But basically, these are customized programs that make it look as if people are right on your website. But it uses the URL of the company so that they aren't actually on your website. And there are some reasons that you want that. The pros for using reservation software is that it's automated. It's online booking 24/7. There's a fail-safe calendar to it. People can just come on, they make their reservations, they make their plane reservations, they go on. You get a notice in your email about the reservation and it fills in on that calendar that I showed you of mine. You do get reports from them, which I find highly important, and it'll be anything from occupancy to the taxes that you owe quarterly if you're doing lodging tax, to what your revenues look like, to the money you haven't collected, the money you have collected, to comps so you can compare years. How are you doing this year versus last year? And on and on. They also, some of these reports or other benefits to these programs is that they do automated emails out to your customers. So 10 days before they come, there's a welcome email. After they've left, there's a goodbye email, thank you very much. You can usually set it up for marketing, birthdays, for anniversaries, anything that you kind of asked your guests about. You certainly get email lists, and you can therefore do MailChimp or other kinds of emails to all of your guests at once. What I like about having this be off of my site is that these reservation software programs generally handle the CPI compliance issues because there is no credit card information saved on your website. And so CPI compliance is how we take money from people and the information that we keep on our websites. Generally, it's a flat fee. These aren't based on a percentage of your booking. The flat fees can vary. The lowest is probably about $30 a month, and then they go up. And in terms of customer service, generally there is somebody who answers a phone, unlike some of the OTAs. Cons is that it's a monthly or annual fee, whether you're booking or not. So it's a flat fee for the year. And you do need your own merchant service provider that they connect into. So there will be a percentage there that you're paying for your merchant service. So there are many options out there. Read the fine print. check their customer support and look at the reviews. Again, here's that link, and what I did is I put in the highest rated, and you can organize Capterra by any way that you want to look for different reservation software. But here I'm just going to give you a few examples. So this is Reservation Key. These guys started up only about the same time that FarmStay USA started up. And a number of our farms use them. They're probably the least expensive reservation software. They have a pretty robust system, fairly simplified in the way it looks, but it works really well. And this is Grandview Farm. They're up in Vermont. And so what I'm showing you is one of the pages on their website that does talk about the farmhouse suite. And then you see there's this booking button, book a reservation. So I clicked that. And then I got this other image, which shows the dates. And you can put in dates. It shows what dates are available. And then it allows you to book right there. They do have reports. And they do have customer service. If you call, you generally get a person right away. They certainly return their emails fast. And our farms who use them gave them a really big thumbs up. They also come up really high in Capterra. Reservation Nexus, this is the program that I use. And I've used this company since 2008. They are pushing ahead really fast to be one of the best reservation programs out there. I am using the Horse Creek Stables Bed and Breakfast. They're another one of our farms. This is their homepage that you see right here. And then under, if you look along the top, availability, I clicked on that. And then this page below is what I got. And you can see how it uses the same style as their website. You would never know, unless you looked at the URL, that you are not on the Horse Creek Stables website. So you have a check-in, check-out, you can put how many guests, and then you'll see what's available. And you can see for the date that I had, which was the 10th to the 12th, that they are occupied. So it's a very simple program for a customer to use. It's a simple program on the back end for you to use as well. And then Super In Plus is used by some of our larger farms. And when I say larger, I mean they have multiple lodgings. So for instance, the Innet Valley Farms, not only do they have rooms, they also have some cottages. They also, I think, have a house that's separate. What I did on this one is I clicked on check availability, and it came down to accommodations. And I just left it at this. There was the whole big page of different choices. Again, it looks very, very simple, very similar to the other reservation systems. It's just more robust if you have a lot of rooms or you have a lot of lodging for people to use. And I do believe it's more expensive, but as I said, it's a fairly robust program. So those are just 3 examples of what reservation software can look like that you put onto your website, goes off to their URL, looks like yours. OTAs, okay, these are online travel agencies, and I know that you all have heard of all of these. I am only really talking about the ones here that it appears our farms use the most. I did ask our farmers to let me know which were their favorites, which weren't, and how did they do things. So there are vacation rental companies, VRBO, HomeAway. These companies started back in the late 1990s, early 2000s with a flat fee. And they kind of introduced the idea of vacation rentals. And this was the way that you were able to market your vacation rental. It was a flat fee at the time, and people could find you based on location. Well, Airbnb came in about 2008 and really upset the world of the standard OTAs because they didn't take a flat fee. They just took a percentage of booking, which meant if you weren't doing any bookings, you weren't paying anything. But they introduced this, they started mirror reviews. And when I talk about that, I mean, not only could your guests review you, you can review your guests. And so it gives more of a 180-degree look at what's going on. They also introduced liability insurance. Once they did this, the standard OTAs had to change. So VRBO, HomeAway, they now charge a percentage. And then there's the larger aggregator sites, which have been around for a while, but they only really dealt with hotels. In the last 5 years, they've really started to mix in with smaller accommodations, with bed and breakfast, with farm stays. These would be Booking.com, Expedia, Travelocity, which I didn't write down here, all the rooms. And when I mean aggregator, it means they go out and they look at all the different places and options for rentals, and they bring those into their site. You do have to have agreed to do this with them. They don't just find you by accident. Although all the rooms actually does find you by accident. They just aggregate you, and then they send people out to wherever you're listed with. For farms, there are niche spin-offs, OTAs that include Hip Camp, Glamping Hub, Camp Native. I will go into Hip Camp a little bit. Glamping Hub and Camp Native are similar. So when you look at these OTAs, and I ask my farm stay operators, the ones that they like to use, tends to be VRBO, Airbnb, Hip Camp. VRBO tend to be families. They tend to be 40 plus in terms of age, the people that are using that site. Airbnb tends to be under 40, although I know plenty of people that are over 40 that use Airbnb, but specifically for farm stays. And then Hip Camp is a very young group. They tend to be focused on camping, but Hip Camp is not all about camping. Hip Camp can also be cottages. Hip Camp is more about coming out to the country and appreciating nature. So with Airbnb, they're kind of the giants in the room these days. They have a really good SEO. So when I went out to try to find some examples of some of our farms, they popped up right away. And this is an example of Folio Goat Farm down in Rogue River in Oregon. What I like that our farm stay operator did is she actually took our accreditation badge and she put that on her photograph. But Airbnb has all kinds of ways that guests can book with them. I will say that all these OTAs do charge extra fees. They charge booking fees. They charge fees that you can't necessarily control, but it makes it very simple for people to find you if they are looking for you location-based. Airbnb is starting to change that a little bit. They do have a farm stay option, although I've never been able to figure out how to use it. You can see here that this says camper RV. Gianaclis could have put their farm stay, but not all of us have figured that out yet. In terms of VRBO, which is vacation rental by owner, their SEO is not quite as good, SEO being search engine optimization. I tried to find some of our farm stay members because they all said they use VRBO, and I couldn't find any of them. So I ended up finding a farm that's not a member with us, who we will go after later and see if they would like to be members. But this shows a very kind of similar format where you check in, check out, what the pricing is, how many guests you have. Again, it has contact information to ask the owner a question. One of the things I will say about these OTAs is that you are not allowed to share any of your email, your phone, anything like that until the booking is actually made, because these companies want to get their percentage. So it's difficult to exchange any kind of information or to tell these people that maybe they should be looking a different way for you, because these companies have marketed you and they want to get, as I said, they want to get their money. Hip Camp here, this is what their site looks like. Again, all of these are pretty much location based. So I want to go to Tennessee, and I want to be in this area, and then Stillwaters comes up. And Stillwaters is one of our FarmStay members as well. She's showing she's got these rustic campsites, but if you see down in the bottom right, it's another listing with her Airstream Glamper that she has. Doesn't just have to be camping and glamping with Hip Camp, as I said. You can list with them. I'm listed with them. You can have a cottage. It's more about people who want to get out into nature, or who want to have experiences. That 35 and under group is very much into experiences. And then there's us, and we are not an OTA. We are a membership site. We are a referral site. So as those of you who are listed with us know, you can put whatever booking button you want on there, or you can have the booking go to your Airbnb listing. You can have it go to your VRBO or your website. We do charge a flat fee. It's an annual fee. It has to do with membership levels for marketing. And we direct market to the media for you. We have the best search engine because we're not just location based. People can search in a variety of ways. And we also have accreditation standards. And if you don't meet those accreditation standards, then you can't be a member with us. This is an example, though, of our search. So people can search by location, but they can also search by all of these other things: amenities, food, activities, and all of those are drop downs. So for instance, we had somebody just the other day who wanted to know about how to find people who are doing workshops with wool. And under that activities, we have fiber workshops. And so we showed her how she could search specifically on that around the country. Okay, so in the end, here's my advice for booking. The aggregator sites and the large booking sites can be very hard to work with. They can say things like you don't have any availability because you haven't advertised with them. And you can't get them to take that off. And that is a big conversation that's going on right now. But it doesn't matter what you do, they will not change that information. And so many of us feel they mislead the traveler about whether we have availability or not. OTAs do charge guest booking fees. They charge cleaning fees. They charge extras that you can't do anything about. They charge deposits. They charge refundable, sometimes non-refundable deposits. And guests don't know that until they come and stay with you. Once they've stayed with you once, they can always return and just book direct with you. But there's nothing they can do about those fees up front. Using booking sites doesn't mean you aren't responsible for your lodging taxes. So you need to check. Airbnb has changed their policy so that now they are starting to submit those lodging taxes for you. But you want to find out if they're submitting all the lodging taxes that they're collecting. Are they collecting all the lodging taxes? The same would be true of VRBO, Booking.com. A lot of times you're the one who's responsible for that, so check. Best practice in the travel industry is to use online booking. Not all of our members agree that this is the best for FarmStay lodging. A lot of our farms like to be able to talk to guests before they arrive, and certainly to set expectations. And I would say, again, that appears to be our East Coast FarmStays more than in the West. Be honest in all of your advertising for your reservations, especially if you're only using online booking. It is a competitive industry. Reviews are out there. Reviews stay out there. People can review you on TripAdvisor, even if you don't have a listing on TripAdvisor. They can review you in other places. And I guess I would say that if you get a bad review, you do want to respond always. You want to see if you can compromise or be clear. Try not to be too defensive. Many of our farms use all the booking options I just mentioned. So they use email, they use a website app or software, they use the OTAs, they use us, FarmStay USA. A few of them use the aggregators. So you don't want to think that one system will be all that you need. As you get more seasoned into it, you start getting more return guests, you start getting more referrals, you may find that you can back off on some of these. But for startup, a lot of times you do need to have some of the marketing muscle that you get by just a lot of eyeballs seeing your listing. And then word of mouth costs nothing. Those referrals I was talking about, all you have to do is offer a great farm experience, just a normal day on the farm, and you will get those guests interested in making the reservation with you, coming to your site, and hopefully finding it easy to book and come stay with you. In terms of the FarmStay USA website, we do have in the Farmer's Guide a reservations how-to guide. It will go over a lot of what I just had here. There is a little bit more, some more pros and cons. There is a PDF that you can print out, similar to the marketing PDF. I was looking at it. It's a slightly bit outdated in terms of some of the OTAs I mentioned, because some of them don't exist anymore. But I will be updating that by the end of this summer. And I think that's it. I think that's all I've got for now. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Please feel free to contact me at any time if you've got questions about reservation systems. And if there are any questions, like I said, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I don't see any at the moment. So I'm done with my part. And please feel free to answer questions. I think I've hit most of the major points, but I might not have. So let me see right here. Okay, I'm gonna let this sit for a minute, you guys. And let me see if I can, let's see, there's chat going on. And okay, well, I don't wanna, oh, how valuable, okay, this is a question from Gloria. How valuable do you think the insurance offered by Airbnb is versus the liability insurance you carry anyway? So I'm gonna, I think that getting Airbnb insurance, which just comes, you also get it through HipCamp, and I'm not sure about VRBO, I think you get it there as well. It's always good to have extra insurance, but this does not preclude you having your own liability insurance, because it's rather specific what Airbnb will cover. I do think that they have good insurance in the event that people destroy your place. I also think that they have some insurance that has to do with safety, which may or may not be covered under your own insurance. So more is not bad. Just don't only rely on Airbnb. Don't rely only on your OTA insurance to be covered. Anybody else? I don't want to drag this on too long. Okay, well, if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to email me at any time. And these are our future webinar dates and topics. Please note that the dates are changed on the next two webinars. I pushed those up a bit. So the next one is taking good photos. We actually have a FarmStay host who is a professional photographer, and he is the one who's going to lead this. And in terms of the farm gift store, one of our other farms created her farm store from scratch, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about that. Avoiding burnout will come later from one of our farmers who's been doing this since the early 90s. And then I have other ideas, food on the farm, meals and classes. I'd like to do one probably on weddings. If you have other ideas, please feel free to send them through. All our webinars are on Thursdays at 11 a.m. And I just want to thank you for having been here and attended with us, and hope to see you at the next webinar. Thank you very much. Have a good day.